The modern financial sector plays a pivotal role in driving China's economic development, with financial openness serving as a cornerstone of China's endeavors to expand its opening up and international influence. In this edition of Global Vision, we are honored to welcome Michael Powers, Professor of Finance at Tsinghua University and Zurich Insurance Group Chair Professor. As the former editor-in-chief of the esteemed journal Risk Finance, he will provide us with his assessment of China's economy and insights into the transformation unfolding in China's financial markets. Furthermore, he will enlighten us on the prospects of Chongqing and Chengdu in establishing a Western financial center. Now, let's delve into this interview. Mr. Powers, welcome to Global Vision. Thanks for joining us in the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
When discussing economic topics, one word that is often emphasized is confidence. What's your level of confidence in the Chinese economy?
I would say in the long term, I'm very confident. Anytime China faces some difficulty, there are people commenting and saying, "Well, this is fun. You know, China, the economic miracle, kind of couldn't last forever. So here it is. Things are not working the way that they would want them to." I don't see things that way. It seems that there is a very long, steady arc of success, that there are challenges along the way. There have been challenges in the past, over the past 40 to 45 years. During this entire period that we could describe as China's economic miracle, there have been a number of serious challenges, but the economy has persisted through them. And I think that will continue into the future.
Mr. Powers, what's your assessment of the current economic situation in China?
I think that where we are now is that it is perhaps as much cultural as economic, that there seems to be an issue with consumers being very cautious, having seen this difficult period of time with the pandemic. They are not eager to spend money. They're cautious about what does the future hold. They want to hold on to their money. The Chinese and actually many Asian countries are very strong in terms of personal savings. I think that there's a certain amount of risk aversion that it exists already, but it's been enhanced, or you might even say aggravated in this case, by some of the difficulties of the COVID period. So I think that what we need to do to move forward is to build consumer confidence and to encourage consumers to get back into the market, both to buy consumer goods and also to be willing to put their money into investments that stimulate various industrial sectors. So in terms of ways to deal with this, I know the government has so far taken a multifaceted approach, both in terms of monetary policy, fiscal policy. I suspect that ultimately we will see more fiscal stimulus in terms of getting money into the hands of lower and middle income people that will then take this money and with greater confidence will go out and begin spending, and that will drive the economy upward. And I would compare that kind of targeted program very favorably with what occurred in the U.S., where during the COVID period there was sort of a very broad brush shotgun approach of just throwing lots and lots of money at both businesses and individuals without much regard to who really needed it. There were many people that didn't need funding that received funding from the federal government, so it wasn't done as efficiently as a targeted program would be.
Well, over the past few years, what transformation have you noticed in the Chinese financial market?
I would say the most obvious one is the very highly successful use of online payment services. Alipay, WeChat, this technology really emerged in the past decade and very rapidly became extremely prominent throughout China. Put China really in the lead of this type of technology worldwide, and it was many years before nations in the West started trying to imitate this type of electronic payment. The other is really the ongoing opening up of the financial sector in China. Of course, the economy has been opening up for many decades, and financial institutions constitute an important part of the economy. But what we've seen is that year by year, and especially in the more recent years, there's been a greater and greater relaxation of restrictions on foreign financial firms who want to do business in China. So I noted that I think it was in 2023, it was a relatively high year for the number of foreign firms that were approved as qualified foreign institutional investors in China. I think something in excess of 80 firms, which was maybe the second highest year ever. So I think that this is something that that we should note is really continuing, and it's continuing in a very strong sense.
Well, China has been rapidly developing in the field of financial technology, especially with projects like the digital currency. What are your thoughts on the impact of such initiatives?
I think that there are a number of ways in which this benefits the country. Certainly, it's obvious that it will enhance the efficiency of financial transactions. It also increases transparency of financial transactions and makes it easier to fight crime and avoid illegal transitions or transactions using funds. So I think that these things are fairly apparent, but perhaps an even more important impact in the long run is the global impact. That is that internationally, the increased use of a digital currency, a Chinese digital currency, would enhance China's soft power, and also economic power. But if you look at, for example, with regard to steps that the United States has taken or failed to take in this area, the U.S. is very reluctant to advance a national digital currency. China has an opportunity in this area to go abroad to improve or broaden the use of the renminbi as an international currency, simply by developing and pursuing greater use of the e-yuan. So I think it's a very positive step.
Mr. Powers, what's your stance regarding the issue of internationalization of renminbi?
Well, this is a very interesting topic, and there are some people who see this as a source of tension or a challenge, an obvious challenge between China and the United States. That currently the U.S. dollar is the dominant reserve currency and also dominates currencies used in trade and foreign exchange markets, and that China somehow should come in and try to replace the U.S. dollar. I don't think that is the objective of China's government or Chinese society. I think that what it would be good for the country and where the current path is taking us is to a more multilateral, multipolar world. In other words, it's not that China's renminbi is going to replace the U.S. dollar, but rather that China's renminbi will be a substantial component of currency reserves around the world, as will the currencies of other countries. And if you look at what's been happening with reserve currencies, one of the significant trends is that the US dollar has declined in very recent years, since 2016, 2017, from about 65% to less than 60%. China's renminbi has taken up some of that amount, but other countries as well, Canada, Australia, Japan. It seems that there's interest among banks and policymakers around the world to have more balance.
Well, financial markets plays a crucial role in maintaining economic stability. What steps do you believe financial markets should take to support economic development?
I think that one area is in terms of making capital available for technology firms. The capital structure, the investment program that is carried out by some of the large banks in China tend to be fairly conservative, have been fairly conservative historically. What would be good is if there were more capital directed toward admittedly riskier, companies, smaller companies, technology oriented companies, to stimulate growth in this area, because really this has been a great area of success for China. The information technology and also green technology are areas in which, in certain ways, China leads the world. And I think that it's very important for the financial sector to continue to support this. There is another area that I would mention, and that is that I think that it's important in developing the stock market and trying to secure a stable, large, successful capital market in China, that the sector of intermediaries, that is funds and advisory services that can stand between the stock markets and individual investors, is very important. Currently, the proportion of investors that are individual and typically less informed traders is larger in China than it is in other countries in Europe or the United States. I think that it's important that turns around a bit, that there is a development of more services so that people can invest knowledgeably and in a way that's more conducive to market stability in China going forward.
The construction of the Western Financial Center is a significant task for Chongqing to deepen the implementation of the Chengdu-Chongqing economic circle. What are your prospects for the Western Financial Center in the Chengdu-Chongqing region?
I think the prospects are very good. I think that Chengdu and Chongqing are well positioned to serve as a center of economic activity in China and in the region. And this is for several reasons. It's first and foremost, perhaps geographically. And I think that that's what some of the promoters, the supporters of this activity see, is that the location of these cities in the more western areas of China are very opportune in terms of connecting, say, the east coast, the southeast of China with Southern Asia, with Central Asia, and so forth. So I think that there is this geographic benefit that's fairly obvious, and it's also of course tied directly to the government's ambitions and plans regarding the Belt and Road Initiative. So I can see that economic activity in Chengdu and Chongqing would be very consequential in moving forward with the Belt and Road Initiative, especially in South Asia and Central Asia. And I don't think that we should forget the culture, that these are two very attractive cities. These are two cities in which there are many institutes of higher education. There are many cultural aspects that would be attractive to people that may, down the road want to relocate from Shanghai, Beijing, or some of the other top-tier cities in the country. So I think that the Chongqing and Chengdu, of course, are already very, very big metropolitan areas, but I think that there's a potential for them to become even greater and to sort of lead the greater development of the Western regions in China.